Okay, everyone, what's going on? It's Joshua once again, Future Filmmaker Reviews. I talk movies, TV, anime, and music. We're continuing the tier list of the MCU phases. We are now on, personally, my favorite phase of the MCU. Phase 2. This is where, after Phase 1, they start to find their footing, but they still try to play with things to make it more accessible. So, if you guys are new to this, as always, be sure to like, comment, and share, and subscribe to the channel for more. If you want to see more Epictastic content, of course, all my social media links to the description box down below. Okay, so like I said, this is my favorite phase of the MCU. Controversial, I know. But hey, we love some controversy here. So you accept this list for what it is or not, we're gonna talk about this. We're going to be epictastically nice about it, and we are not gonna start fights here. So with that being said, gonna be a little clip from my girl, the Scarlet Witch.
This is me being reasonable.
With that out of the way, let's do it. So we're going to start off with Iron Man 3. And Iron Man 3, you're gonna go in the epitastic fun category. I think Iron Man 3 is nowhere near as bad as everyone says it is. Yes, it definitely suffers from the Mandarin twist. It definitely does suffer when it comes to some of the supporting cast. But since we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, we ain't gotta worry about it. I think Iron Man 3 does a great job at what it sets out to do. It sets out in telling a story about Tony's trauma after what happened in the first Avengers. It does a great job of wrapping up his trilogy while also giving us some more of what's to come. And it's just a great film. I think Shane Black directed the hell out of this. I think it's a fantastic, well directed film. It's a well shot movie. I think it's awesome. And I just have a lot of fun watching it. It's entertaining. It's awesome. I think it's a fun film that knows what it is. And yes, it's more darker. Yes, Aldrich Killian is not the greatest villain, despite Guy Pearce's great performance. Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, and Ben Kingsley, they are great. I think the action scenes and the effects are great. And I enjoyed the finale of this film. The finale of this movie is fun to watch. And it's just an entertaining ride if you can take what this movie is. Yes, again, like I said, it suffers from the supporting cast not being as strong. Yes, it's definitely has some problems that could have been fixed in with extra rewrites. But I think Iron Man 3 has a lot more great to offer than bad. And it it's just a fun movie, you know? You can't hate a movie that wants to be simply fun. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a conflicting one. Because this one I don't think is as bad as everyone says. Either Thor The Dark Worlds. You know what? It's not epitastic, but I think it's entertaining. Despite the production troubles and despite the fact that this movie was clearly going through some production problems, but I'm just gonna say this right now to all you people. This is not as bad as people say it is. Yes, it is one of the weaker films in the MCU. But you know what? This movie is still good. I think the production quality is still amazing. The visuals are amazing. I think Tom Hiddleston steals the show. Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, they're still awesome in here. I like the rest of the cast. Anthony Hopkins, Rene Russo, Idris Elba, even Jamie Alexander for her little screen time that she has. Like I said, There are some seeds of a great Thor movie. There is some fun banter with Thor and Loki. I love the energetic and action sequences by Alan Taylor, who is one of the directors from Game of Thrones. I think Natalie Portman, she's great, even though she had a bad experience working on it, besides Jamie Alexander almost dying. Problems, honestly, I will say the tone is some of the tone shifting here, but it's a more darker film. I will say there are some moments when it comes to Darcy and Selvig that are a little annoying, even though Kat Dennings is making me laugh in most of the parts. And you can tell where the production troubles are going with this. And the biggest complaint I will agree with is the villain. This is one of the weakest MCU villains, but nowhere near as a frustrating movie as Thor: Love and Thunder. We'll get into that when we get to Phase 4. Again, it's guys' problems for show, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. Is it perfect? No, not perfect. But do I think it's better than what's been given credit for? Absolutely. Granted, I do feel like if Marvel didn't really go too far, get a little too scare track of it, the studio production, I think this would have been much better for people. But I still think Thor: Dark World is a fun movie. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, sit your badass in the Spider-Verse, Swarty, because you are truly the definition of what a great sequel is supposed to be. I love Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and this is coming from me who loves the first film. But it just took everyone by storm and told everyone this is how great Marvel is, and this is how you do a good film, and it's just incredible. No, I love this movie. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic film, and just it's everything you want. You have some great storytelling here. I love the storytelling here. The Russos come in with Chris Marcus and Stephen McFeely. They leave their stamp. Some of the most mind-blowing action scenes in this movie. I like a lot of new characters like Robert Redford, and you got the gorgeous Emily Van Camp. Everything that works about this movie works very well, and it's a well-directed film. This is the best Black Widow has ever been, and this is my favorite look of Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow. She is beyond hot in this one, obviously. Bucky, his story being the Winter Soldier, I love that. It feels like a Captain America movie, but it's totally different, but it feels in line with it. It's like a spy thriller before we got Mission Impossible Fallout. Without this movie, we wouldn't have it. And the whole purpose of Cap is that he risks any danger to protect his country. And it really does fit. And you do see the struggle he goes through, which is against his friend. Which I initially hated the twist with him in this movie and Captain America Civil War. But I think it's great. I love Falcon. I liked seeing Samuel L. Jackson here, even though I thought he was gonna die. This is a kick-ass film. This is where I can say a sequel is just as great and even better in than the first one. And there's not a lot of comedy in here as well. This is taken very seriously. Any superhero movie that's not a comedy is dark to them. But you know what? I think it's great when you can stray away from the usual MCU comedy. Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, Spider-Verse worthy. We got some consistency going on here. Now, I was just like everyone else. Really? A movie with a talking raccoon and a talking tree? How's this gonna work? But lo and behold, you got James Gunn, director of the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, producer of Brightburn, one of the writers of Scooby-Doo 1 and 2. He comes in and he says, I'm going to surprise everyone with something that it should be a lot of fun. I know a few people will call this movie overrated, and I know there's some Chris Pratt hates, but come on. This is an unexpected surprise that nobody thought would work, but his writing and direction, while not having a lot of character development, the simplest character development is what makes this movie great. Top that off with some gorgeous visuals, which is that gives us a first look into the cosmic world, and some great cinematography, a great story, and some fun character moments, despite the villain not being the best, and a great soundtrack. And you got a fun ass movie. The Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Bradley Cooper, Dave Bautista, and Vin Diesel, they all do a great job. And some of the jokes and the stories, it never gets old. And leave it to James Gunn to put a bunch of misfits together, and all of them still the scenes they're in. And Star-Lord, he's a very complex character. This is Chris Pratt's best role. And not only that, I can't talk about this movie without mentioning Gamora and her sister Nebula. This was my introduction to Karen Gillan as an actress, and Karen Gillan, since this movie, she has made her mark. And it's nice to see Howard the Duck being part of the MCU. So I do hope one day we get something out of Howard the Duck in the MCU. But Guardians of the Galaxy, fantastic film. I just think there's one Guardians movie that is definitely better than this. But this is a great start. And it's hard to make a great first movie. Avengers, Age of Ultron. You're going in the Spider-Verse worthy. I will never understand the level of hate that this movie gets. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if this movie doesn't do it for you. I'm sorry if you wanted a more darker film, but this movie is way too slept on. I think it's better than first. Yes, it's a lot more going on. There's than the first one. And yes, I personally would have loved to see a 3-hour extended cut, which we're never probably gonna get. But the action I think is great, and Ultron I think he's a really underrated villain. I'm like he's real underrated. I think it's just as great as I like the romance between Hulk and Black Widow. I do love the fact we're going the darker routes. You still have some comedy here, but this is a fun ride. It is overstuffed. It sets up a lot of to come with the MCU with Selvig and Ragnarok and the Infinity War. It's fun watching these group of heroes save the world. The chase for the cradle is awesome. Ultron is a misunderstood villain. I get where Whedon was going for it. The action is a lot of fun. It is copy and paste, the first one, but it's still a very underrated film. And it was my favorite MCU film for a while. It still is my second favorite MCU film. I will never call it a bad film. You got some great introductions to Vision, Paul Bettany. You got Quicksilver here, and then you have an introduction to my favorite actress of all time and my favorite MCU girl, the Scarlet Witch. Love the Scarlet Witch in this movie, but I think this is a damn great film. I do kind of feel like the movie, yes, if we had an extended cut, I think this would be a lot more appreciated. But you know what? It's faster pace, and I love Hawkeye in this. The character arcs they move up here are great. And Scarlet Witch being a badass in that last half, you can't help but love her, which is one of the reasons I would pay money to watch a Scarlet Witch movie more than once. And I'm glad we're going to see more of her. Because Multiverse of Madness, spoiler alert, she's not dead. At last but least, this is another one that took everyone by storm, and that's Ant-Man. Epictastic fun. Again, has the problem of a lackluster villain in Yellow Jacket, but I appreciate how small scale this one is. I love how small scale it is. Paul Rudd, he's awesome in this. And yes, I know that Edgar Wright was supposed to do this, but come on. I just think this first Ant-Man movie is tons of fun. I will always like this movie. It's a breath of fresh air. It's simplicity. It's lighthearted. It's fun. It's a fun superhero origin hybrid, and it's crazy to see how far he has come. And these characters in this, I'm very happy that they will get more spotlight. I can't wait for Quantumania, despite the fact I'm not a fan of Kang the Conqueror. But if he's great, I will give him that. And aside from the generic evil businessman with yellow jacket, I think it's very unique. It's simple, it's smaller scale, Paul Rudd helped with the script, and you have some very funny moments here. Baskin Robbins always wins. And it has a few pacing issues along the way, but it's one of the most fun with Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, some great use of Edgar Wright's humor, some great character interactions, great effects. And also I like some of the development for with him and his daughter. So Ant-Man, you are definitely a fantastic film in my book. You're an epitastic fun film in my book. Well, that's gonna do it for the video that you just watched. I will have my channel here, so you would like to see anything here, click the channel icon, subscribe for more. I will also leave a video and maybe a playlist here, so in case you want to see what I'm about. As always, stay Epictasticness, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.